and welcome to this week's episode of Fade to Obsidian. Maybe I should say this month's episode of Fade to
This
Obsidian.
month, yeah.
A very special post Howler Laureltide. It was a Howler Laureltide.
It was, yes.
We're out of practice. It's fine.
You're in a new space. You don't know what's happening.
Yeah, things are different. Yeah, so as always, I am Crescent, struggling my way through the intro, and as always, I'm joined by Skipper, who is much more on the ball.
Hello.
And as per frequently, we're joined today by Salem.
Hi, Salem.
Oh, hi.
So who are you? How'd you get your name and what are you drinking?
Do I have to do it again? This is like the
Obviously.
20th time.
Yeah. No, what are you drinking though?
Good old water.
Oh, it's a work night for you.
Yeah.
Somebody's still recovering from Laureltide.
Dude, I had like vertigo from the plane ride for like the last week, and it finally went away today.
That is
So
that is not a good time.
it was not fun.
Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Crescent, what do you have?
I've got locally brewed Sunseeker Hazy IPA.
Nice.
It's good
Nice.
stuff. What do you got?
I've got Cabernet Sauvignon. Cab Sav.
Oh, are you being one of the cab twins?
Yes. Yes.
The triplets were having cab the other day.
Yes.
Oh, fancy.
There you go. That's just what I happen to have in the house at the moment. And I was like, that's good. I like that. I didn't have too much of that at Laureltide. I don't know if I had any wine during Laureltide. Maybe some in the mimosa.
I don't think anybody had any wine, to
No.
be honest. Everything was cider and mixed drinks and beer.
Yeah. Mimosa the one morning. That's it. But let's get right into it. Okay, what was Laureltide? For people who are just joining in and like, I don't know, somehow have been in the dark or under a rock. Salem,
Blinking in the bushes.
yeah. Salem, explain what where we were, what happened, the general, and then we'll get into the details,
The
the
nitty
nitty
gritty.
gritty.
Okay. Okay. So Laureltide was a Den sanctioned event. House Minerva, so all the locals from Minnesota were the ones that helped host it. They're the ones who found the brewery and the space, and then helped to give us an itinerary of things to do around in the area. And we essentially put out a call to everybody in the den that wanted to join or had the funds to fly from wherever they are from to come join us in Minnesota. And we had almost 70 people join
Yeah.
us for Laureltide. And yeah, so it was mostly just a big party. And it was nice because we did not have HowlerCon this year. And so it was kind of stemmed off of HowlerCon because we really loved the vibes of running around in packs and hanging out with other howlers. And so we wanted to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really
Yeah.
good.
I, I always tell people that HowlerCon changed my brain chemistry,
Yes.
and it was like honestly, I think we recaptured so much of it,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, like so much of it is just like being around your people, right?
Yeah.
And I think I really like how it definitely really showed us at HowlerCon, and then it just reiterated it at Laureltide. Like, yeah, you don't necessarily know these people in real life, but it's almost as if you've known them forever because you're talking to them every day. And there's no
Mhm.
difference between chatting with them in the Discord server versus actually seeing them in person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
there's no break.
Yeah. I'm actually going to use that. So I asked our Patreon who went to send us their favorite parts, but I am going to use that segue. I was saving this one for slightly later, but I'm going to use that segue. I'm going to awkwardly play it into the microphone and it'll be dubbed over later. So you will see Crescent and Salem's reaction, but I'm going to ask them not to talk until it's done because it's going to have to be muted anyway. So here you go. This is Clover.
Hi, friends. Clover here. My favorite part of Laureltide was how it was exactly like comms online, but in real life, everybody was exactly the same as you would expect them to be, and it was like meeting with old friends who you've known your whole life. And honorable mention to doing the skipper wiggle with Skipper. All right, miss you all. Hail, Steve.
Not
Yes.
Hill Steve. We don't
Yes, Steve.
know Steve. Yeah, I think that perfectly nails it. That you could watch throughout the whole weekend the different groups, the different conversations, people bopping between everybody, and like, yeah, as everyone presents themselves in the den was essentially who you saw. Like there was no big shockers of like, oh, that's that person. It was fantastic. And meshing together, like you could see how all the groups are forming and it really was how we all come and talk in comms especially, but all the different channels. So it was a lot of fun that way.
Each night that we were out, I definitely was trying to like bounce between groups just to get a feel for everybody and like give time to people too.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
Well, let's get into the nitty gritty. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. If people were watching our Instagrams, they were following along with us, but we're going to do a full recap. So, starting on the Wednesday, I believe I was the first to leave my house. And I then drove to Dram's house, and classic Dram welcomed me in with a hard seltzer in hand at midnight, and then two more after that, so three total. So that was my kickoff
Yeah.
of the weekend was classic Dram. So driving myself and immediately getting into that Laureltide spirit. And I think on Wednesday, Crescent, you left your house, but after I did.
Yeah, I did leave my house. I didn't leave until after work. It was, I don't know, 7 o'clock ish. I only had a couple-hour drive that night. We drove down to my sister's place and crashed for the night. And then first thing in the morning, we were up and we were at the airport before 6 o'clock. And 4 hours later, we were in Minneapolis.
There you go.
We were not quite the first, but we were very close to the first
Yeah.
ones who moseyed in for Laureltide. I know Cannoli was in ahead of us, but I think
and I think
she might have been
Hydra
the
was
only
too.
one.
Yeah,
Oh
Hydro,
yes,
I
that's
think,
right. She was too.
was. Yeah. Yeah, you guys, I think, were actually there before Dram and I left Dram's house, if I'm remembering correctly. We were having rental car issues and so left 3 hours behind schedule, which meant we were driving when poor Salem had to board the plane and arrive. So, what was your getting into Minnesota story there, Salem?
So I didn't realize that when I booked my ticket, it was possibly a standby ticket. Um, and so when I checked in 24 hours before on Wednesday, it said that my name would be called at the gate. And I don't fly very often. So I was like, what does that mean? And I got to my gate, and the attendant's like, oh, the other attendant will help you. And like, I had to wait another 30 minutes for them to show up. And then I ended up being the very last person on the plane because my name didn't get called until all of the other seats had been taken. I got a seat, but I didn't get a boarding class. And so they had to call my name at the very end and tell me that it was okay for me to get on the plane. Um, Thankfully, I did not have to upgrade my seat. I got an exit seat, so I had all
Nice.
the leg room for my
Very
little
nice.
legs. Um,
Of all the people.
Yeah, you were sitting there with your little stubbies sticking straight out.
It
Yeah.
was great. Lotus actually was on the same flight as me, and she had to run across the airport, and then she immediately got on the plane, and I just had to sit there and continue waiting. But then Lotus
Wave
was
at her as she
literally,
runs by.
yeah, pretty much. She was in the seat behind me the whole
Nice.
flight.
Nice.
So
So
convenient.
yeah, and so because Skipper and Dram were so far
So
behind,
behind. We were
So
making our
you
way.
ended.
We were making
It
our
was
way through.
like 5 hours.
Yeah, we were like, "Don't worry, we'll get there by 6, maybe 7." No, no, no. Past midnight as we were just
They
hanging
were.
out in the
They
cornfields of
were.
Wisconsin, listen to true crime, not even true crime podcasts. We were listening to paranormal activity podcasts. And I was like, "Yeah, nothing can go wrong now."
Yeah, they were. Dram and Skipper were supposed to pick me up from the airport. So yeah, they were supposed to pick me up at the airport. That didn't happen. And then Jabs and Lotus and Harvest were all going to the House of Venus house, and they essentially took me and bribed me with Lotus's cookies and said that I could stay there until Skipper and Dram showed up.
Yeah.
Sounds like a tough sell to me.
Yeah.
And then we walked down. They had to go get groceries, so we walked down the sketchiest street with no street lights, to like the most hippie little like off-brand Whole Foods
Yeah.
convenience store, and got snacks, and
Complete Eats.
went back.
Yeah. And I
So
think we can say this because obviously it was an Airbnb, and so nobody actually from that group was there. But the place seemed haunted. Like we're
it
pretty
was
sure that their
Yeah, from
Airbnb
what I
was haunted.
understood.
what Lotus was saying, that she was hearing knocking on the walls, and it was like going around, like, and it wasn't pipes, it wasn't like heating, it was like just straight up somebody was knocking on the walls. This their house was absolutely ridiculous. Like, they jokingly called it the mansion, but it really was like a mansion.
Yeah.
And it was it was like so many different levels. It was really weird, but it was really cool. And I don't understand how that was just stuck in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It probably existed and then the neighborhood came up around it.
I think so.
Honestly.
Well, and because we were all thinking how it was such an odd house, Badger was staying there and was like, I'm going to look up the history on it. And it was built in
Mhm.
like 1947 or something. So haunted,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
very haunted.
Yep.
See, the
So-
joke is actually that the knocking around Lotus's room was Badger going around trying to find hidden passages.
Yeah.
Knock, 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 knock. No, none there. Knock, knock.
There you go.
I was the one when we were walking around. I was the one opening the doors. I was like, I'm not even staying here.
Yeah,
Let me
you're
open this
fine if
supply
you find something
closet.
creepy. We were safe in our hotel room. It was fine.
Hours later.
Hours
Yeah.
later. Which then we had
So
to take
while this is all
Graham in.
happening-
Oh yeah, okay. You tell
Yeah.
yours and then we'll
While
end
this
it
is
there.
all happening, I'm just sitting at this
Just drinking.
most lovely, like, hip food court. We don't have those here. We just have regular food courts.
Oh,
They don't
that's
have
kinda
bars in
weird.
them.
Okay, but what do
It's
you
such a
mean
good
by
idea. We
hip?
went to.
What do
It's
you
a
mean by
food court,
hip
but it's got a
food
bar in
court?
it.
Okay.
It's like it's a nice restaurant feel,
Yeah.
or like an eatery feel, right? But it's got multiple restaurants in it and a bar.
Was this
So it's a
That
food
was
court,
really a
was
but
that
it's
vibe.
got a
Malcolm's
bar.
Yard? Was it also Malcolm's
No,
Yard?
that was North Loop Galley
Oh, okay, because
on the Thursday night,
like that's
That
and
must
then
be
Malcolm
a
Yards
Midwest
and
thing.
Gray's
and
were
Grace,
Yeah.
they
were all
had
the same
that.
thing.
I would love that.
And we don't have a single one here, and I kind of want to start one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really cool feel. It must be a Midwest thing. And it was fantastic for all of us that were
Yeah, it was
popping in.
amazing.
We'll talk Malcolm
Like, I
Yards
can't-
and Grays in a bit, but yeah. So
Yeah,
where
I
was
can't
it?
think of a better. It's called North Loop Galley. It was like right downtown,
Mm.
and it was 4 restaurants and a bar, and then an absolute shit pile of seating. I think they probably had like 10 or 12 like 12-foot long tables
Nice.
with seating inside, and then a full patio outside with like massive couches and like propane gas tables. It was fantastic.
Nice.
And we hit there for happy hour for half price drinks.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was great.
Nice.
So they were only regular priced for Canadians.
There you go.
The
I
Scanadians.
Hmm.
know. The
Yeah.
Scanadians. Yes, the
The
Saskatoon
Scanadians.
team got named the Scanadians. So I was like, does that make me the only regular Canadian? Guess so.
But your name starts with an SK, so
Yes. I
we
got
honored you.
adopted by you. Yep.
I
But yeah.
also had a request to adopt Summit as a Scanadian,
Okay.
because her name starts with an S, and she has run in winter temperatures, Saskatchewan winter temperatures.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Sounds fair.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome in, Summit, to the
Yeah,
Scanadians.
yeah.
That's
Nobody but somebody from Saskatchewan would usually subject themselves to that.
yeah. I'm not doing that.
No, thank you. I'm gonna stay inside.
Yep.
Seems
But yeah,
reasonable.
that night we adopted Dram into our hotel room because her Airbnb was like, I don't even know where it
A ways.
ended up being, but it was out of the city. So by the time we got in and then everything happened, it was like,
Grabbed me.
yeah, grabbed you. We're, getting back to our hotel, but it was like getting, and
It's
Dram's
like
hilarious
two
that she was
o'clock.
like, yeah. And then she's like, it's okay, I'll sleep on your floor. And I was like,
Or
no,
she
you can
wanted to sleep
share
in
the
the
bed
chair.
with me. I said to her, I was like, you can share the bed with me. And then she goes, it's fine. This chair will be great. It's like, Dram, get in the bed. Like, we're just sharing a bed right now. It's
She's
fine.
okay.
She was just looking for the
Context.
threat.
Yeah.
For some context, she's a nurse and she will find anywhere to sleep and fall asleep.
Yes. Yeah. But also, how hilarious was it that we also just walked into our hotel room and she just immediately opened beer? Like,
She
I was
did.
it's like, I guess they're having a beer. Like,
It's a party
which
now.
also
Yeah.
okay, so that beer that she was drinking was called Badger Sweat, and she had given two to the HOV house, and then she had one. I had bought a 6 pack of beer and had one. All the rest of that beer stayed in our hotel mini fridge, and we did not realize until we were in
Did you
Wisconsin
forget
driving back.
it?
Oh no.
8 beers
No.
were given to that hotel staff at the end of it because we only had that
I
one night.
knew we were forgetting something.
I know. And
There's
cheese from
always something.
Wisconsin that she had been very
Oh.
excited to buy cheese curds. She'd never had them.
Mm.
So
Oh.
there you go. But yeah, so we slept that night, and then Crescent, you were awake, even though you were the one more drunk. You were awake the next morning.
Uh, I don't know if I was more drunk. I was probably more drunk. I
We
just
only
wasn't
had
that
one
drunk.
beer each.
You like
So
sent us. No, Skipper jokingly was like, "Hey, Crescent, go save Salem from the airport," and you're like, "Sorry, I'm drunk. I can't drive, and I don't have a car."
Yeah, I said I'm drunk and I don't have a car.
I was like, didn't actually mean go save her. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. But you still woke
it's
up
fine.
at like
Yeah, I
pretty
was up at
early.
7 a.m.
Yeah.
And what did you do?
Yeah, and so Tower and I walked 2 miles down to like through downtown into or like to the river and met up with Cannoli, Summit, and Light, and we did a walk slash run kind of out and then across one of the bridges down the other side of the river back across the the next bridge down, and then we walked a little further down and met up with the two that were walking, and then walked all the way back along the park or along the river to the park, and then that was it. But I think that was probably 3.5 miles.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then we wandered just a little further to um, In the Loop Coffee, and we met up with like I think there ended up being like 15 of us.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, Backstitch and Clover and Alcatraz and Badger and Summit and Light and Voltage and Fluid dropped by briefly.
Sweet.
Tower and I, Data and her partner Tony Magic, the opening I believe, was his final name tag.
Ah,
Um, who else was there? Saccharin showed up. There's a lot of us.
nice.
It's a good time. Yeah, super nice. Ridiculous cinnamon buns, and they called it a croissant, but it was not. It was just like a Danish.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
It was a like a raspberry and cream cheese pastry.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, that's totally Danish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We went for breakfast, just the three of
We
us.
slept in.
We slept in. Yep. And then we went for Graham and I were being drink goblins and had
You
mimosas and
were.
coffee and water. There was a great moment when we were eating and I literally was just thirsty and I had this moment of like, but what drink is going to fulfill my need right now? Because we just had all the drinks. We were being drink goblins. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we all went to Mall of America, which
Mhm.
that was
Yeah.
my favorite thing was watching small town Dram have her mind be blown by how big this mall is. And then Salem, you didn't really know what Mall of America was because you're like,
I
there's a
didn't
fucking
know.
roller coaster. And I was like, yes, that's why we're here. We're not here to
Okay,
shop. Like,
okay. When
Yeah. Why do you
I
think I came all this way?
okay, I didn't realize when Jabs was like, "We're gonna meet at Nickelodeon World." I didn't think it was a theme park in the middle of the mall. I thought it was a store. I thought it was like Nickelodeon merch, like you have the Disney store.
yeah.
And so, like,
Hmm.
first off, the fact that like I knew Mall of America was giant. Like I've heard about Mall of America, but like
You
it
didn't know
just
there'd be an aquarium.
no, there was an aquarium on the first level. And then the top level was like almost all restaurants. The Margaritaville and the Rainforest Cafe
And
and
Neither one
Bubblegum.
of those were on the top
Hooters.
floor.
Yeah.
I
Hooters
know.
is on the top floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. We just like walked in and both Dram and I like Skipper's like, "Oh yeah, it's Ninja Turtles." And like Dram and I are just like, "What the hell is this?" Like you walk in and it looks like a normal mall on the inside and then all of a sudden you're screaming and you're like, excuse me?"
So funny to watch the two of your reactions that I was like, yes, correct. That's why I have agreed to come to a shopping mall. Like, I'm not a
Mm.
shopper, so I'm like, yes, of course. That is why we're here. But we were there in onesies, met up
We still
with
Yes, we
should have
were.
done we should have still done laser tag. I just realized
I
that we didn't actually do
we
laser
never
tag.
did it. Listen, we
Next
got
time.
real distracted because
Yeah.
we met up. Crescent, you ended up joining us there while we were all hanging out, and there was probably 50 of us in Mall of America. I would say because
Uh,
20 of
I
us
think
went to Margarita
40.
yeah,
40 because
yeah, I would say
Yeah.
probably
Margaritaville was
40.
20
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and not
We
everyone
gave
went to
them a heart attack,
margaritas.
so
Oh, I know. But yeah, it was cute. We all met up. We were all wearing onesies, and then we all decided it was way too hot for onesies, and pretty much it
Yeah,
was
yeah. The
so
onesies
hot.
lasted what, like half an hour at the
yeah.
very
At the most,
maximum.
it was like,
Like
congratulations, look, we're wearing them. And
yeah.
Yeah,
then,
we took a picture, and then half of us
Someone
just
on a roller coaster.
disrobed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we wore them onto the roller coaster. You can't tell from me because my head, like the hood, flew off immediately. I don't know why. But yeah, well, 9 of us went on the roller coaster. Salem was mom and held all our bags. Thanks, Salem.
Mhm.
Is that
You
because you're not
guys
tall
went.
enough to ride?
No, we looked. We checked. I was tall enough. Literally, I don't even. It might have been Badger. Somebody was like, "Hey Salem, you should make sure that you're tall enough." And I was like, "I'm not riding on it." And they're like, "No, you should like go stand and see." And I was like, "Oh." And I was definitely above the height. I am taller
Nice.
than 4 feet.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. But a lot of people went food court to get
Mhm.
food, which was, I think, where you guys
Yep,
ran off Crescent.
that is absolutely. Estrella was had no food since North Loop Galley at like
Oh,
6 p.m. the night before. She was
Ooh,
like,
yeah.
I'm, I'm
You
gonna
need
cut
something.
somebody if I don't get food.
I feel
So
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Which then in
She
the
showed
food
up,
court was more
immediately
people.
yelled that she needed food in the middle of everyone, and Dram was like, "I love this girl." It was her spirit animal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which then more people were in the food court. Like we
Hmm.
met up
Yeah,
with
Rowdy Legion all showed up in the food
in the
court.
food court.
Yep.
Which immediately I turned to Slink because I like saw Margaritaville while we were waiting in Nickelodeon and was like, that's all I'm doing. I don't care about the rest of you. I'm going to Margaritaville. So it was roller coaster Margaritaville. So we go because everyone's like, well, the food court. And I'm like, I want to go to the food court when I go to Margaritaville. And I went to the food court and then I found Slink and I went, hey, Slink, Margaritaville. And Slink was the one who was like, yes. And so we just like, yep. And so 20 of us go to Margaritaville. Bond and I, and Jest leading the way. Shout out to Jest, who became our absolute tour guide. I mean, he's 6'9" to begin with. So immediately the jokes were that, like, he didn't need a flag. He just was like, let's go. And he was our little, not little, he was our big local who guided us around everywhere. But he was incredible. But yeah,
He really was.
he led us to Margaritaville. Uh, yeah, me, him, and Bond were in the lead, and like got to Margaritaville and just told the staff of like, we're a big group, and we don't care if we have to like divide. Like, take your time, be as slow as you want. And they were incredible. They were so good at Margaritaville. So
Yeah.
shout out to them. Yeah, but yeah. At
In
that point, I
stark
think
contrast to Rainforest Cafe.
yes,
What happened there? Because I did not stay with you guys. So HOV decided that they were going to do a little black dress night
Mhm.
at Laureltide, the actual event on Saturday, and I brought normal clothes. Skipper brought like this crazy
I was
dress,
like, oh yeah,
and
I was
and
like full
then so I
prom
was
dress
like,
almost.
yeah, and so me and Dram and Slink were like, okay, well, we want to do this, and we went shopping. So we went shopping for little black dresses while the rest of them went to Rainforest Cafe.
Yeah. Yeah, Rainforest
Um,
Cafe, I walked up and said the same thing. Hey, I think at that point there was 8 to 10 of us. We had lost half the team from Margaritaville, which to be expected. And walked up, said the same thing, and they're like, "You just want drinks?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think at this point, like, because we had all people who wanted food had eaten at Margaritaville, and they're like, okay, go sit in the bar. So we had to just like hang out at the bar, and then they
all
were
sit up around the bar.
yeah, and then Tower and Estrella were back at a table because they didn't fit
Hmm.
at the bar. And then they were like super slow in serving us, and it was like I had to like draw their attention over and be like, "Hi, yes, I would like a drink." Like, so yeah, stark
And
contrast.
the boy, that was the most unhappy bartender I have ever met. He was like, "What do you want?" Done. Like there was no interaction. Caroline was beyond appalled. It was what, like $13 or $16
Yeah.
for a beer, one beer, and
Yep.
then American,
Yeah,
mind you. So you're paying
20 bucks.
$20 Canadian for one pint, and then you get handed this souvenir glass
I
that
should have used the souvenir glass.
that would have been a good idea. Um, we ended up leaving two of them at the Airbnb.
Oh, did
Oh,
you?
you
I
did?
got the other two
Yeah,
Saskatchewan ones, so I own
yeah.
3 commemorative glasses from Rainforest Cafe. I will get the 2 to them some Sunwow in Saskatchewan, and then I have one from Margaritaville. But the Margaritaville one, if you take it back to other Margaritavilles, you get a refill deal. Just so
Oh,
we're
that's
all
good.
aware. Yeah, he said that when he was leaving. He was like, always take it back to a Margaritaville and you get like $2 to $3 off. I'm like,
Nice.
okay. And then you don't have to pay for another commemorative glass. But yeah, Rainforest Cafe was. But then, like, the hilarious idea was you were going to do Hooters next. And then I was like, Bubba Gump. But I think at that point, suddenly the call went out of we've got to go to Malcolm Yards. And we're like, okay,
Yeah, it was
we'll
it was
go.
getting like 5:30 at that point.
Yeah. So I don't even know how. Did you guys like Uber back to your Airbnb? Did
We
you just drove
Ubered back
there?
to our Airbnb, and dropped Estrella off so she could study
Hmm.
and work on an assignment. And then it was Caron Tower and I
Yeah.
took an Uber out to Malcolm Yards.
Yeah. Jess lovingly drove us. Was it just no? Who else was in the car with us? Was it just the three of us?
Uh, Bobbin.
Bobbin! Oh
Mm,
my god, shout out to Bobbin. I am so happy Bobbin just showed up, hung out with us all. You are my I love you so much, Bobbin. That's all I'm gonna
yeah,
say. You're
she's
the best.
so sweet.
Just amazing. But yeah, Jess just drove us. I'm like listening to my music. Oh my god, we put Waze on my phone and he's at 10 kilometers and he was like, what the fuck is this? And if you've never used
What
Waze,
the fuck is a kilometer?
yeah. And if you've never used Waze, it is not like Google Maps or Apple Maps where it's like, here is like a logical way. It is like literally like, here's the fastest way you're going to go, but also you're going to go through like roads that don't really exist. And so we
We
were on
went
like,
through the weirdest intersections and then neighborhoods, and then all of a sudden we were on the Mississippi, and
yeah,
then
we just
I
followed the Mississippi for a while. I don't
You
know.
guys took a boat? Classic
Correct.
skipper.
I didn't even talk about the fact that I crossed into the United States on a boat. Hadn't even done that before. But yeah. Yeah, shout out to Jest who just rolled with my punches the entire weekend. Poor Jest was just like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. It's like, you're the
That
best.
dude
he was
is such
wonderful.
a good time. Like
Uh,
the absolute nicest person. Like
yeah.
he's a transplant from Arizona, and
Hmm.
he fits right into the Midwest.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
that
so
dude. That dude is like unbelievable. I don't know if you guys heard he took Caron and Tower to 21
21
Pilots.
Pilots.
Yep.
Yeah. Like,
Unreal.
so great. But yeah. Well, which to give background on Jest, he got into the Howlers Den when we met him in Oklahoma. We were at the
Hmm.
brewery
Yep.
ahead of time. We were at Cabin Boys, and he was like, I think it was when we were standing in line, and he was like, "Clearly, you're here for the event, and why is there so
Yeah.
many?" And that was the moment we were
Yeah.
like, "Come be our friend." And so it was fantastic to then have him be in Minnesota and being our tour guide. So yeah, he
Hmm.
was the best. But it's not this. That's not the first time I will jump into his car during the stories we tell tonight. But yeah, or it was the first time I should say. It's not the last time. But yeah, so we got to Malcolm Yards, and Malcolm Yards is, as you were saying, like an upscale food court that it was all these different places, which is fantastic for that group because there was again 40 to 50 of us, and it was just a like go get your own food, serve yourself kind of a thing, and then you could stand wherever. So that was really good. And that's where I think I really started to talk to different people from different
Hmm.
groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think out of the three places like that we went, I think Malcolm Yards had by far the best setup.
Yeah.
They had great
Like you,
drinks for great prices.
oh
Like
god,
Yeah.
like even
that
their food, even their
that
food was
passionate
pretty
heart
good.
was like, oh god, the smoked meat place. We went back on the
Oh,
Sunday.
Mm.
yeah.
Unreal. Um, that passionate heart. First of all, amazing cocktail.
Yes.
Second of all, $15 US.
Oh,
Oh, was it?
I
Yeah,
was drinking beer at Malcolm Yard, so I can tell
yeah,
you that the
that
beer was well
good call.
priced.
I only had one of the cocktails. Um, I had two like blackberry ciders, which were amazing. Um,
Mm. Someone
I
had like a
didn't.
watermelon Jolly Rancher one, which we need to
Me.
discuss. Was it
That.
you? Somebody had
mhm.
it, and
Yeah.
like I drank it, and then I was like, "That's too good. I cannot have that," because that would have
It.
been
Was that the lady in
really. I
red?
got drunk that night, but that would have
No.
been my complete
It. I
downfall.
don't remember what that one was called, but it was. I drank half of it, and then I looked down, and it was full of glitter. It had glitter in it, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's a Salem drink!" And then the. And then the passionate heart also had glitter in it.
Yep.
And it was so funny because the guys at first were being like stereotyping. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to drink with glitter in it." And then literally
Yeah, you
every
do.
single guy, like halfway through, was like,
I'm just
"No, I
standing there
want
with my
this."
passionate heart, like, this is the best fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Anybody
All of
who
definitely
us
said,
got
had
one.
it
I
by
think
the
I
end.
knew that that would be
Graham
my
said something
downfall.
about Drab said something about oh, you does your wife know you're drinking that? And I was like, Dram, like, you saw the Cassius drink,
Yeah. What
like
did you
you
think?
saw the Eagles Rest. It
Yeah.
was all made of gold sparkles,
Yeah.
and
We love gold
you're
But
sparkles.
then
you're
it,
not
yeah.
allowed to make fun of me because you know how I drink my whiskey.
Yeah. It was a great place. Kudos
Yeah.
to them. But then
So good.
closed at like 10 or 11.
Midnight.
It
I
was
think
mid.
it closed at midnight.
We left
No,
Oh,
sorry, no, it closed at 10.
yeah.
we left at 9:30.
Surly was closing at midnight.
Yes, I was gonna say no, 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 because
That's
I was
right.
told I left early at midnight, so it couldn't have Malcolm Yards. It had to be before that, because then
Yeah.
we walked down to Surly, and I need to like so someone's like we're going to Surly, and I'm like okay, and I somehow end up leading the way, which is like the theme of this weekend was people were just following me, and I was like maybe stop doing this. Like it was one thing for Margaritaville, but there was a few people who kept being like, "What's next?" And I'm like, I don't know.
People kept asking me what's next, and I was just like, I don't know. Like I'm rooming with Skipper, so I guess I'm doing stuff with Skipper. And then they'd go and be like, "Well, Skipper said that Salem would know," and I was like, "Stop!"
This is what happens when it's the Primus and like the most active member are rooming together. That everyone's like, but you guys are
Hey, you're supposed to
saying,
know what's going on.
and we're like,
I don't know. It's just
no,
there for vibes.
yes. So somehow Surly came up, and I do know Surly was in the running for being the official Laureltide event, but was like crazy
Hmm.
expensive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh, but so they're like, we're going to Surly. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, just on a mission to find this brewery. And I've got Caron and Tower with me. Nobody else. I don't know where the rest of you were. If the three of us
We
just
were
like,
waiting because Cressing
We
was
were
looking at
practicing.
directions.
We were practicing. No, no, no. It took like another 15 or 20 minutes before we even left the building. We were
Yeah.
practicing our Midwest goodbye, okay?
oh, yeah.
Oh, I was
No,
not partaking in that. Where was I?
I didn't know people were
Talking
saying
for
goodbye.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't know people were saying goodbye. So Caron and Tower and I
We weren't really. We were
No.
just taking
mulling
forever to
about.
leave the bar
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
the
leave the
three of us
place.
were on a mission
Um,
though. And so
Yeah.
we go and but they're just blindly following me that I was like, "What? I don't know where I'm going." I literally saw the sign and I was like, "That way." And they're like, "Where's the front door?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like I didn't open Google Maps. I don't know what's Caron yells out at some point, "We need to do Pegasus. This one's bad." Because I couldn't give directions and I was like, "I am not a moderator because I can give directions." Like this is not which then Tower somehow found the bouncer, but he like ditched us in order to do this. Kieran jumped through a bush, and I'm standing there alone at some point, being like, "What the fuck?" And I find Tower with the bouncer, and at that moment, Kieran jumps back out of the bush, and the bouncer just goes, "Yeah, I can't let you drink." I was like, that is fair. That is entirely fair. So he didn't get the hand stamp, but we told at Surly they were great. We are like, we have a giant group, like there's probably 20 of us coming over. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. Just find um a table. So they were fantastic as well. Of they just I mean, super fantastic that I was just bouncing around all over the place and thank you, Bond, for paying my drink drink bill when
Cheese
I
board
but a cheese board! Oh my god, I was like force
that
oh,
I
you
feeding
ate
the
charged
half
cheese.
me.
of.
I was like force
And I
feeding.
ate the other half.
Yeah.
I had like four pieces. I was like, I really like cheese, but I had like four pieces, and then was like, eat this, you eat this, and I was like force feeding people cheese. Yeah, Surly was great. That was a lot of fun.
Shout out to the one bartender that couldn't get my card to process, and just like, yeah, you can have it. I get free drinks to pass out. You can just have it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
cool.
Oh,
didn't know that.
Yeah,
nice. You
Yeah, I
should have
went up
tried
for
that.
last call.
Mm,
Oh,
I just paid my drink normally on the machine.
yep.
mhm.
That was like the one in the state. Um,
Yeah. They're slowly becoming more and more prevalent.
mhm.
Yeah.
Mm,
But I paid my first drink when our first waitress closed out because she was leaving for the night,
yeah.
and then I went to order my second drink up at the bar, and my card wouldn't run. I was like, well, shit. She's like, yeah, just take it. Oh, cool.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Gotta
thank
like
you,
that.
Bond, for
Yeah.
paying for mine because I kept disappearing every time the waitress was trying to close me out. I didn't mean
I
to.
was I Crescent and I were literally sitting there and she came out and she was like, "So this?" And I was like, she went to the bathroom." And then like you disappeared again and she came back and I was like, I think she's at the bar." She's
Yeah,
just like
Bond
She's a
and
being
then
ghost.
that's when she went around to go close out Crescent and then Bond was like, "I'm just gonna buy."
yeah.
Mm.
Thank you, Bond. He's great.
Jokes
Thank you for
on
my cheese
the
board.
Heart of Venus house. Skipper was actually the one haunting the place.
Yes, I was. Thank you. Thank you very much. Which okay, we need to go back to Margaritaville as you say that about the credit cards and the hilarious moment
Oh.
where they collected all our cards to pay the bills, which is not a thing that happens in Canada. They would never take my credit card out of my hands.
Hmm.
But then tried to pass back out the bills so we could sign and like do a tip and obviously give us back our credit cards. And none of us knew our government names. So they're like calling out like Joe Smith. And we're all like, we don't know who that is. We
At
don't.
one point, like I don't maybe it was you, Skipper, turned around and was like, "Hey, so funny story, we don't actually know each other's real
Yeah.
names. We go by code names." And
Yeah.
the look on his face was just like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah, Badger jumped up and
What in the
Badger
fuck?
knew most people's names, so
Mhm.
helped him because we literally were like, Joe Smith, Joe Smith. In the same way
Yep.
you would normally be like, who got this like cocktail? We did not know each other's names. It was pretty hilarious that moment. We're like, okay. But yeah, Surly was great. That closed out that night. Bond did come home with in Jest's car. Jest was like,
We
I'm gonna drive you
almost
home.
got him.
Jest was like, I'm gonna drive you home, and I was like, great. Bond is coming. Like, you have to stop and drop off Bond. Like, he's getting in the car as well.
Yep.
And I think I just said to Bond, like, get in the car. I was like,
Yeah.
you're with us. Um,
Bond's just like, okay,
yeah,
just
that's
down for
fine.
anything.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's Friday night. Saturday morning, Crescent, did you do any what did you do Saturday morning?
We slept in again,
Um,
so
We slept in. We just kept sleeping in.
what did we do first thing?
did you go on another walk?
Um, it
Oh,
wasn't
didn't it
first thing. It ended up
rain?
being like almost noon. Yeah, it was raining when we went to go. Um, but we did head down to Nokomis Lake, and I ran. Estrella and Light walked. Tower and Charon sat on a bench and fed the ducks. Maybe we found this house that was just like covered. Like they had this display of kitsch. Like there was just random stuff.
Okay.
Oh.
I will get Skipper to install the picture that we took
Yes.
in front of it
Right.
here
Underneath
Somewhere.
Crescent. Yeah.
somewhere
Underneath
there.
Crescent. It'll cover. There. Underneath Crescent.
Uh, yeah, and then from there we went back to the Airbnb, got ready for the event.
Yeah.
We did something else that morning, and I can't remember what.
Mm. We decided to meet up. We got ready for the event first thing. So I
Because
was
we
in
didn't know if we were going back.
yep, I was in a long ass dress the whole day. So just everybody listening, picture the two of us done up the whole day and me in a long ass trailing on the ground dress through this whole story. because we met up with most of, I think it was HOV was mainly who it was, and then a couple, Bobbin joined in, Peppermint was there, Tempo, a couple of people, Rawhide showed up because they were all getting tattoos in what's called Dinky Town, which is like
Hmm.
the college area. So we Ubered out there. We went to the world. Okay, so we went to the home of Target. Minneapolis is the home of
We
Target.
were
We
we
found the
were
world's worst Target.
No, no, no. Okay, okay. But to preface that, literally, we're Skipper and I walked down the street to go get coffee first, and then we get our coffee, and we're like, okay, well, let's get the Uber so that we can go meet them for tattoos. And then, legit, we're sitting there waiting, and we turn around and we see a giant Target, like giant Target symbol,
Yeah.
and we're just like, well, it's not open. And then I'm like, I think that's headquarters. Look it up. It's headquarters. We're literally right next to headquarters, but not a Target in sight to
Nope.
shop at. We go to Dinky Town and we're like, okay, Skipper still needs socks. This
I'm
was the
on
whole reason
day three of wearing the same pair of socks for the
because
rest.
Skipper wanted to buy socks from Target.
This
She
is
wanted
true,
an
dude.
excuse to go to Target.
Yeah.
And so literally we find Target and we go in there. It is the worst Target I think I've ever been in.
There was like nothing. It was tiny. There was nothing, and even the socks had security wrap on it.
Yeah, everything was loss prevention wrapped, and
Yeah,
it was not great.
it was not great. So then we meet up with everyone from HOV, and we went to a really cool, like, used bookstore. I will give them kudos that it was really cool. I don't think we were all in the frame of mind to be in a used bookstore, though Viscera, like, she found
That's
some
her.
crazy old stuff.
She
We
collects
left her
anything that
there.
is yeah, she collects any books that are not made after 1900, I think.
Yeah.
So she found like 7 books, I think.
Yeah. So
And
we left her there to stuff. As we then, everyone's like, we need food, we need whatever. So the thing, I pull up the Google app and I'm like, look up restaurants. What's going to appeal to the widest amount of people? Because there was 15 of us there.
and you would
Must
think
have
in a
been.
little college town?
So
Yeah,
we
I think there
find
was
an
about
Irish
15.
pub. So we
It
go.
was not an Irish pub.
We're not.
It was
Yeah.
not.
Let's not put that on the Irish for what this was. First off, you stuck to the floor. So remember, I am in a ball length, like, sorry, floor length ball gown. And I have to, as we're sitting there, wrap the entire dress around me and into my legs so that it did not touch the ground or else it would stick. Like you
Like
couldn't
this
you
floor, like I feel like this floor they never mopped. Like they did it for the aesthetic, and I almost feel like they made it so that when you walk in there,
you can
if
hear
you were to try to leave without paying, they would know.
they can hear you.
They can hear you. Literally, it was yes,
Yeah.
it was as if you were like stuck on a fly trap as you walked across this floor.
It was
It was so
disgusting.
bad.
That's
Like
horrendous.
it's not even exaggeration. That's literally just what it was.
Yeah.
It was you also if you sat and you didn't move your feet for very long, you had to peel your shoes up off the floor to get up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we order
That's
our
actually just their
drinks.
pest control device.
Maybe.
Maybe it's the whole floor is a
We
is a mousetrap.
Yeah.
we were the pests. It's fine.
It's fine.
It just
I did get a so then they've got their cocktail mix. I needed or list. I needed hair of the dogs. So I was like, "Do you think they have a Bloody Mary? Because it's not on the list." And everyone's like, "They've got it. They've got to have a Bloody Mary." And I was like, "I don't." Okay. So I order a Bloody Mary. It shows up, and you have to remember that in Canada we have Caesars. We don't have Bloody Marys. Caesars have
Caesars.
extra ingredients to a Bloody Mary. And the Bloody Mary arrives, and I think that's the first time in my life I've had a Bloody Mary versus a Caesar. So I'm like, I don't know. And first off, the garnish was just like a pickle skewered, like it was like a slice of a pickle, which
yeah.
Jabs did take and eat, but everyone was like, that's the garnish. Like you need more than that for a Bloody Mary.
Normally it has like celery and carrot and then it
Yeah.
has a pickle and it's got like olives and stuff.
Yeah.
So you
Um
get a salad with your ketchup.
Yeah. There's there's some that like some restaurants will make Bloody Marys, but you'll have a meal on the top of your Bloody Mary.
Yeah, they do that with Caesars. They'll have like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
mini hamburger, like a slider on top.
Yeah.
But
They've
then
got grilled cheese at a place out here.
grilled cheese.
Ooh.
Ooh, that would be
Yeah.
good. Because the
Yep.
tomato, as if it's tomato soup.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay.
Next
Um,
time you come out, we'll go.
Okay, deal. But yeah, and then everyone's telling me it's the wrong color, and I'm like drinking it, and it was fine. Like it
It
was
looked so
drinkable.
watery.
It was
It
so
looks
watery, but I'm expecting because Caesars have extra flavor. I was like, this doesn't taste like a Caesar, but I don't actually know what to expect out of a Bloody Mary. So that was it. And then Bobbin sitting next to me, and Bobbin's pizza that arrived was what
God.
you would expect a poor college student who's never cooked before in your life to eat.
Okay, but to preface that, literally we're looking at the menu. There was absolutely nothing Irish about anything on this menu.
Nothing.
Except that they had
Bangers and
Irish nachos. They had Irish nachos.
Oh, yeah.
Which who knows what even that was. And Bobbin,
Potato wedges with cheese on it.
it was probably
No.
normal chips. It was probably normal chips, not even potatoes.
Yeah.
But Bobbin's looking at the menu and she's like, "Ooh, that margarita pizza. Like I feel like you can't go wrong with margarita pizza."
Oh, you can
Was
go wrong.
literally
Oh,
what
there's-
she said. And then it comes out and it's burnt to a crisp and she's like,
And then 4 like
you know,
chunks of cheese.
yeah. Yeah, well, she just looks at it and she's like, the longer I look at this, the less hungry I am.
Yeah. So
It
luckily
was so-
Salem had a giant ass. You got chicken fingers and fries or something.
Yeah,
So you
because
ended up sharing
it was
with
that
Bobbin.
or who knows what else. I don't know.
My Caesar salad they forgot about. We had to like ask for my Caesar salad to come back out. And then it wasn't great. I was like, "Yep, this is some kind of sustenance, I guess. Like this is something, I guess." But yeah, do not if you find yourself in Dinky Do. Which okay, so I did talk to Gambit, who was not there that weekend, but is a Minnesota local, and I was like, yeah. So we went. I'm not gonna say where it was, but like, oh yeah, we went there, and his response was, "Why?" And I was like,
It
"We
was
didn't
the
know
only
any
thing
better."
open.
And he's like,
I
"You
think
could have texted me, and I would have told you anywhere else."
well, because the
No, we
tattoo
didn't have a
parlor.
local with us.
Well, the tattoo parlor was supposed to open at 11. They went over there and it didn't actually open until 12.
Yeah.
And then so we were like, okay, well, we just need a place to stay because it was starting to rain and we just needed food for those that were about to go get tattoos. And that was literally the only place besides a coffee shop that was open.
Yeah.
So that's where we ended up. But I think in the end, we all were just like, that was an experience.
Yes, we have a story.
Yep.
We have a story. Yeah, and then we went back to our hotel room
Drop off
to-
your socks.
Yes, that's right, because I had socks now. And we met up with PJ from Words and Whiskey, had a drink with him, and then he nicely drove us over to Laureltide. Crescent, do you have anything to add before we go to Laureltide?
I found Salem the most appropriate socks.
Oh, they're upstairs. Okay. I'll send
They
Skipper
say most likely to say it to your face.
yeah.
Yeah,
Say it to my face.
We'll insert Salem socks.
I'll send a
underneath her over
picture.
here. Yeah. Below Salem. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, no. We had really good coffee and sandwiches and waffles at Nokomis Beach Coffee. Super nice. And then got ready back at our Airbnb. The smelliest Airbnb I have ever been in. It was not an unpleasant smell. It was just overpowering. There was like 4 of those powered Febreze air fresheners.
Now that you say that, from when
This shirt
we walked in,
that was there for less than 48 hours still smells like it a week later.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, so Laureltide,
and then it was event
proper.
time.
Okay, we are 55 minutes into recording, and we're gonna get to the real event now.
Honestly, like this is pretty much the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Laureltide. So thank you to Meringue who found it's a brewery of a friend of hers, so LaDonna. It was perfect that like we had our own back event space and we meet there at 3 p.m. just so everyone's setting the scenes that we're still in the middle of the afternoon.
Hmm.
We had our own event space. There was merch that was up. Shout out to Miles sent stuff. Miles
Hmm.
Bensky.
PB Doodles.
PB Doodles. Okay, so I want to talk PB
Oh,
Doodles. Sent
yes.
an exclusive Severo print.
Hmm.
Which we should also put in somewhere. I can.
One of the sides, suddenly it'll appear. Which then it
Shit, it's still
went.
upstairs.
I was gonna say, didn't you get it, Crescent? Didn't you?
Oh, actually, give me a
I
second.
did too.
Okay.
I know where it is.
So Crescent, you have the
I
print.
do
What's
have. I am returned
you've returned?
with the Severo print. See if I can get my
It's a
ring light glare
glare.
off of it. Oh my god! Stop it.
It's there. I will make sure that we put it on one of
Okay,
the
I feel like we
Come
sides.
on.
need to backtrack
There.
again.
Aha.
There it is.
We'll get it.
There.
There we go.
There it is. Gorgeous. Yeah, and
Yes.
then
So good.
was PB was selling it for charity, one of the
Hmm.
sanctuaries.
Hmm.
Salem, you have the information there.
Yeah. So she donated all of the extra proceeds to Warrior Canine Connection. And it ended up amounting to on here. It was about $650. So
Amazing.
everybody at Laureltide, thank you so much for purchasing PB's prints. Because then they went to this foundation, which is
Yeah.
something that, if you're unaware, PB a lot of fan art for the Red Rising saga. She even partnered with Nerdy Inc. and helped do some of the character artwork for the covers for the dust jackets that she did.
Yep. She's
Hmm.
partnered
And
with Lit Escalates too.
she's done some stuff with Lit Escalates. She's like big in the fandom pretty much. And so she donated, or she sent some prints to some members of House Minerva so that they could be sold. They actually, whatever was not sold, they sent back to her. No idea what she's going to do with those prints, but stay tuned in case she does put them on her Etsy at some point.
She has announced on her free Patreon
Hmm.
that they will be going up on her Etsy at
Cool.
some point.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible.
Also, if you haven't, join PB Doodles free Patreon
Yep.
because
Yeah, so
that's
she
where
uses.
almost all of her updates are now.
Yeah, she doesn't use
Yes.
Instagram. She uses on there, so it's free to follow her. But yeah, incredible. Thank you so much for that, PB.
Hmm.
But yeah, there was
I
some
also
other
got an
cool.
Ephraim.
You
Hmm.
got the Ephraim? Okay, nice,
I did.
Yeah.
I had all the other ones.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, there was a Mustang, Darrow, Diomedes, or
Hmm.
Diomedes, however you want to say it, and
Diomedes.
Ephraim, and then Zephyro.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
Lauren. There was a Lauren on there too.
Oh,
Yes, there was.
yeah, there's a ton of merch. I don't want to call anyone out because I'm gonna forget somebody. But thank you to everybody who did that and House Minerva who stood very loyally at that table. You're incredible for doing that.
Hmm.
But yeah, that space was so much fun. Thank you for that bar. The waitress was amazing. Shout out to her that like I walked up and I was like, whatever, ordered. In Canada, you don't get ID'd over 25 if you look like 25. But in the US, it's usually like 40. That so I'm wearing my name tag and she goes, "Hi Skipper, are you of age?" And I go, Yes, would you like to see ID?" And she's like, "I guess I should." Which is like great because then Dram realizes I'm gonna call Dram out. We're gonna call Dram out a bunch probably. Little Miss, I slept with my sword. Dram
Yeah.
goes,
We didn't even talk
Got
about
undressed
we're
with
that.
not
her
even
sword.
we're not going to. That's all people need to
Okay.
know. Is she was so drunk on the Friday she slept with a physical sword in her
Mhm.
bed, unsheathed. But yeah, so then Dram didn't have an ID, and she's like, "Oh shit! Like, how am I gonna get?" And I was like, "They just walk up. They don't care." Because like it was so funny that she just went, "Are you of age?" And I went, "Yes." But yeah, that was it was so much fun. That's where most people were was the Saturday, and just mixing and like mingling with everyone was so much fun. I loved it so
Yeah.
much.
Um, Flood
Flute,
ordered a so if you haven't seen I just sent his profile to you guys today. His name
Fear
is
is the mind killer.
yeah.
yes,
Beer is the mind killer. Kevin, he is absolutely wonderful, and he's creating a whole bunch of really cool artwork for the series just as a fan.
yep,
And he created a pity them artwork with some crying sons for Victra, and Flood got it printed onto this giant vinyl like canvas
Banner,
poster
basically.
banner.
it's a
That's the word I'm
banner.
looking for.
Yep,
Banner. And he had us all sign it. So we
yeah,
had
You're
a big
booking it.
table. Yeah. And he literally was like, "Okay, you guys all signed my Lightbringer book so formally, like nice lines and everything." He's like, "That's Den. That's not what I want. I want this to be as chaotic as possible." So every time I was up there, and because he went, he mingled. Like every time I was up there and giving somebody like a new name badge, I was like, "Okay, hey, this is Flutes. You need to sign it as chaotically as possible. I don't care how you do it, just sign it." And everybody was just ecstatic.
yeah. It was great.
It turned out really well.
Yeah. Tower hit a lot of Goose Bucket and
Yeah,
sorry,
Deal.
Hail
Steve.
Steve.
he put Hail
Hail
Steve.
Steve.
A couple people
Yeah.
found him and put Goosebuck in a reply.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which is I'm gonna call it out now. Lights also had a book for us all to sign, and I got to sign almost directly after Tower. Tower put Hail Steve. I fully crossed it out, X'd it out, and put Hail Goosebuck. No, I just put because he had Hail Steve Tower, and I crossed it out and put so it would say Hail Goose Bucket Skipper. And I was like,
Yep.
yeah, but yeah, so much fun. But yeah, that was kind of it. Was just mixing and mingling at Laureltide, and then we went over
Oh,
to.
but we did a cosplay contest.
Oh yes, that's
We
right.
did.
Oh, good call.
We did do
That's
oh,
right.
and then they also House Minerva did a jelly bean counting contest
Yes,
Hmm.
Cannoli came
and
within like two.
won. It was
Off
Was
within
by
it
one.
one?
one.
Yeah. It was 715 jelly beans in the jar, and she got 714.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then we did the
But
cosplay
yep,
contest based off of a literal decibel reader that Badger had.
that was amazing.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah,
To
Which
I
Backstitch
don't think
like
anybody's
absolutely
surprise,
destroyed it. Yeah.
Backstitch just
no
crushed it.
We will put
backstitch.
Backstitch here, and
Hmm.
then just to mirror her, I'm gonna put her life because they kept saying my life.
My
Viscera will
life.
go on this side.
Yeah. But
Um,
then Bottles came in second
Bottles came in second. He looked like
as
the
a
most
Hmm.
violet.
dapper Violet to
Hmm.
ever
That dude,
face.
that dude loves to dress up, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yep. And he was actually wearing, which I think almost all of the cosplayers were wearing, the sigils from Lit Escalates,
Hmm.
the
Mm,
temporary
Yeah.
tattoos.
yep.
So
Um,
shout out to
I
Lit
saw
Escalates.
Backstitch. Yeah, I saw Backstitch comment on, or they commented
Mhm.
on the post, and Backstitch was like, they lasted for like 4 days. Like I cannot speak highly enough about these things.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Because on the name of temporary tattoos, I think Hydro brought them the temporary tattoos that we
Yeah.
all ended up wearing across our faces. I
Yes.
slept in mine. So did
I did
Me
Salem.
too.
too.
I at least got mine off the next day. Salem, I don't
I
think
couldn't.
you.
I had to go when I went to go hang out with Crescent and Estrella and Tower and Cherion on Sunday. I still had mine on. I was like, "How did you guys get yours off? I can't scrub it off." And so Estrella helped me and figured it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So
But
that way I
yeah,
didn't have to go back through security with some crazy temporary tattoo on my.
yeah. I had like, yeah, adorable stars and everything. Crescent, you had something in the middle of
I
your
had I
forehead.
had a moon
Yeah, you look
on
like
my
Sailor
forehead, and then
Moon in the
like
middle of.
gold tears.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was great. But yeah, all the
Um,
cosplayers were amazing. Alcatraz
so
reprising
good.
as Viscera or Victra.
Victra.
Um, Victra, not Viscera. Viscera was Mustang. This is getting confusing. Uh, but yeah, they
I
all.
think we should have a cosplay contest where people dress up as other people.
I think that would be both hilarious and so dangerous for like what stereotypes are gonna come out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You need some rules and regulations, but I also am not
Yep.
against it. Not against it. On that note, somebody did have poor Howler Pod was not able to make it. They were supposed to and had to back out. And somebody who is now Howler named Dichotomy had their faces on uh popsicle sticks, which was really hilarious.
We've
Hilarious.
recreated our picture from Howler.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we had a podcast house recreated. Yeah, with them and then PJ
PJ
instead of
standing in for
Cross. Yeah,
Cross.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Because yeah, we just swapped out who was there from Words and Whiskey. It's perfect. We only need one of them at a time.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So then
We
we
also,
did.
as Pegasus Legion,
Oh no!
guessed who was gonna be the
I was
drunkest.
trying to leave this part out.
No, we're gonna do it. But I won't give any details. But it is up
There's
on our
a
Instagram right
reel.
now.
You
There's a
can
reel on the
see it.
Instagram. It was very cute. Honestly, it's probably one of my favorites because everybody was so excited and so happy to be around each other. And then the person that was the drunkest was a surprise, and
Yeah,
I
it
love
was
that video.
not me.
And
Thank you very much.
Hmm.
Everyone was
Not that
like
night.
a skipper. But yeah, I went too hard the Friday. But
yep,
no. Actually, I do think I was more drunk on the Saturday, but I think other people were holding back on the Friday.
yeah,
And
oh
so,
yeah.
yeah,
And then you
they
ate a whole thing of pea of the
so
snap pea
much.
things, harvest peas.
Okay, that was on the Saturday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was my drunk moment was
Oh, that
in
was
the hotel
Saturday,
room.
wasn't it?
That was
Okay.
Saturday. Was we're not there yet. We're not there
I'm
yet for
sorry.
for
It all blurs together.
Harvest Snaps. Yeah, so we went from LaDonna to Gray's, in which a couple of the Canadians got into Jess's car, and I went, "Excuse me, I'm in heels," and kicked. I think Estrella or maybe Karen. One of them got out of the car so I could get in the car, and I was very
Yeah, I'm
demanding.
pretty sure it was Estrella.
I was like,
Oh
"Drive
yeah.
me to Gray's. I am not walking the mile. I will not do that." But Gray's was another upscale food court. It was amazing. I had so many
Hmm.
cheese curds.
I
They had
had so
an
many
amazing.
onion rings.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, your salad bowl of onion rings for what, $8?
It was $8 and it was literally a bowl and
Yeah.
like it was
Yeah,
Yeah.
amount.
it was like a
The,
foot
I just
across.
it was so. And then Slink and Pop had also ordered just French fries and it came in the same size bowl. And it was just like, how am I supposed to eat? It was considered a side. How am I supposed to eat all of that?
yeah. My cheese
So I
curds
was
were like
potting
Well,
them
10
off.
bucks,
you
and
fill
everyone
a
was eating my
side of
cheese
your
curds.
body with it.
Apparently,
Yeah. The cheese
Is
curds
that
was
not how
just as
sides are?
much. It was
I
crazy.
got like a fucking foot long chicken wrap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a
that
bag of
was
Impeccable.
chips.
that place. Grace was pretty fun too because it was a very smaller scale, but it had one bar and it had like four food courty
Yeah,
things,
4 or 5 restaurants.
and then it had an outdoor
The
seating
outdoor
with a
space was
fire pit.
amazing.
So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
huge like propane fire table or natural gas fire table. And then like probably 8 like 15, 20 foot long picnic
Hmm.
tables.
Yep.
Like what a great space. I love Minnesota. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um
loved it there. I will say I'm gonna bring up something here, and I'm out of wine, so I'm gonna do something stupid. But while sitting at Gray's, suddenly over my shoulder, I am handed a mini bottle of Bacardi rum, which I greatly
Oh, you got rum?
appreciate. Pardon?
I said, you got rum?
I
I got
got.
10-year-old scotch.
Oh, so I got given
He had a
over my
lot.
shoulder
He
because
did.
I made such a big deal that he gave me the tequila last time and I like flipped out that he handed me the rum and was like just for you and handed me the Bacardi rum. So I drank the Bacardi rum. Late this is from Bottles who got his name for a reason for doing this at Laura
Same with his
At
HellerCon.
wife.
Allercon.
Yeah, and Puppeteer who puppet mastered the whole thing. And then later in the night, I like got demanding and walked up to him and was like, "I want another one." And he like was reaching in and he's like, "Have Crown Royal." And I was like, "Okay." So I had Crown Royal.
Seems fitting.
I'm gonna have the Fireball now.
Yeah. Which
But
I gave to Skipper because I didn't drink it that night, and then I realized I couldn't probably take it on the plane with
no,
me.
and that was the
So
problem is Bottles couldn't take any of them back, so we all got
yeah,
sick. Now I'm suddenly having an instant gag reflex because I know I don't like Fireball, but I'm gonna do it.
do it. Don't breathe.
Before I do this, this is from oh my god, everyone's got their spooky names on right now. Is it Renaissance? Is that her real
Yes.
Probably.
color name?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yes.
Hmm.
Everyone's spooky names are throwing me for a loop. Laureltide memory. In line for a club, Bottle starts moving down the line, pulling mini bar bottles of Fireball out of his suit coat like a suspicious watch salesman slash booze genie and handing them out. How many did he have on him? They came out of nowhere.
He had so many.
So
Get a pocket
many.
dimension of bottles.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
yeah. Okay, there we go. Hold on. I gotta like hold my. I can't. Okay.
Oh, this is the loon shot all over
It
again.
is. That's what I was gonna say.
Ah.
Nice.
Ah. There we go. All right. Well, we haven't even made it to Loon yet.
Mm-mm.
We're just about
And
there.
Yeah, we had a lot of really good conversations at Gray's too. Like we were there for a
Mhm.
long time, and I think everybody that like was bouncing around, like there was a lot of like good, meaningful,
yeah,
fun conversations. So
I hung out
Yep.
with Twist for a lot of it. Me and uh, who was? I think Renaissance was there, and he does not Pixie Prick. I was gonna say he doesn't have
yeah,
a proper
Mm.
Howler name at this moment. We were all talking about like the monarchy at some point. Like I was hanging out. Jabs was threatening everyone every time they tried to sit in my seat because I was very like, that is my seat. Sorry to everyone. Next time I will not wear heels and I won't be so demanding. But yeah, absolute great conversation. Badger took some impeccable uh
Mm.
photos from Grays of just people around the
she just
fire.
took
The
great
whole
The whole
thing.
photos in
weekend.
general. Like the whole time, the whole trip. Like that was Badger's. There was at one point I think we were at LaDonna, and I like saw Badger out of the corner of my eye, and I made contact with her phone, and she just stops and she's like, "Stop looking at me! I'm trying to make candid or take candid
Yeah.
photos." And just got so mad, and I was like, "Okay,
The
do your
photo
thing," and
Sam
they're so good.
of me, you, and Twist talking is probably my favorite picture I have of myself. That we all three of us are in like genuine laughter. Like it's just
Hmm.
it's so good. Thank you, Badger, for capturing those moments. Like so good.
She had so many.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many pictures and so many incredible pictures.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'll be the whole time we're talking about it popping up pictures. So if you're listening rather than on YouTube, you can zoom over and take a look because I'll be
And if you
popping them up here.
if you want, we did create a separate thread
Yeah.
for pictures. There's not really any chatter in it, just because we learned from HellerCon that if you had a picture thread or a picture channel, people started talking. So it's just a place to photo dump. And then because Discord does reduce the quality of images, despite the fact that we have so many boosters, then we do have a drive. or a
Yeah.
Google photo album that you can throw stuff into it.
Yeah. Yep. So good. But yeah, Grays was amazing. I honestly wish we kind of stayed there the whole night, but there was a movement to go on. So a bunch of people went home, which was understandable. It was kind of later. And again, we had been we showed up at La Donna at 3. I
Mhm.
personally had been drinking since noon. So I get it
And
that
we
people went
left
home.
LaDonna at 6,
Yeah.
little after 6, and went to Gray's.
Yeah.
I think we left Grays at like
9.
9:30, nine
Okay.
Yeah.
ten
Yeah.
ish.
That
Mhm.
feels right.
We
Uh,
tried to go to Cowboy Jack's.
yeah. Well, also, Tower and Sharon went with Just to go see 21 Pilots.
Yep.
Yep.
And I am positive that Tower had like some sort of like biblical experience.
I'm pretty sure they both did.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're both huge 21
Yeah.
Pilots fans. Um, and when Jest offered on Friday to take them,
Yeah.
Tower was like, I, I got to
Yes.
think about this. And I was like, dude, you gotta, like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And really, they didn't miss that much. Like they were at Gray's for a while, and then I think it was like a 10-minute walk to the stadium for them, and they
Yeah.
just walked
Yeah.
over there and then saw it and then came back and found us.
Met us at the Loon because
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
we left Gray's in an attempt to get in Cowboy Jack's while walking
So
over there.
apparently, it was really fun.
Yes, that is
Supposedly.
everyone. Like PJ was saying, of Words and Whiskey, he's a Minnesota local who unfortunately couldn't be with us after LaDonna because he had to go back to his dogs. But both him and then Gambit or Cross, depending on how you know him, they're both Minnesota locals, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Cowboy Jacks. Like it is an institution." However, while we were getting there, there was clearly I was at this point in the middle of the pack that there was a cover and they weren't taking backpacks.
Yep.
So,
Or water bottles.
oh, I didn't even hear that part. Okay.
Mm.
Oh, you didn't hear? So the reason we didn't go to Cowboy Jack's is because they made Hydro either. So they told Hydro she had her Hydro flask, as she does.
As she
She
Hydro.
was, yeah.
mhm, she gets to the bouncer, and the bouncer is like, "Well, you can either go put that in your car, or you can throw it away." And she was like, "Well, I didn't bring a car." So she went and she threw it in the trash can. And I don't know who it was, but they came up behind, it might have been Meringue, came up behind her, was like, "Nope, we're not going in. That's not fucking worth it." And then they went back, grabbed Hydra's
Yeah.
Hydro flask, and we went to the Loon.
Yeah. Well, because what happened is
Yep.
at some point they come back and we were clearly in the middle of the pack because Slink and I had to have a moment. Shout out to Slink and Pop, who both like I won't get too much into it, but like they really represented what the den is this
Yeah.
weekend of
Yep.
I love
welcoming
them so much.
love. You guys are incredible. But so we were slower. We were still following the pack, but the two of them did not come with us to Cowboy Jack's. But Slink and I had literally a forehead to forehead crying moment of like "I love you" kind of idea because that's what the den is, and it's incredible. And like I just God, talked about it in therapy of like I don't need you anymore, therapist. I got Slink. Just kidding. Continue going to therapy, guys. Uh, but so we were later in the pack, and then yeah, Meringue came back and was like, "We're not going into Cowboy Jack's. Like, what are we doing?" And then at some point, like the decision came to me, who was like gone at this time, gone. And then it was like, "Do you want to do the Loon or Last Call?" And I just looked between the two, and I was like, "The Loon seems more Canadian. I'm going with that one." So we went into the Loon. That was it. That was my decision. Done and dusted, which was great because when we were leaving, uh the last call was like full bar, like club, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
fucking
Nightclub.
night
Yeah.
club. And I was like, we could not have held a conversation in there. We could
Well,
not
and
have done anything.
No.
there was even a line out, like when we were waiting, there was a line to get in, and it was such a small space that our group would have filled the whole space.
Yeah. That we were
Yeah.
like, great. We'll
Yeah.
go into the Loon. Um, and they were decent. I'm gonna call them decent.
Well,
They were.
I would say okay.
We got alcohol.
Yes.
They were
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was the closest thing to a dive bar that we
Yes.
experienced this whole trip,
Hmm.
Yes.
despite the fact that it was a large bar.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah,
It was
as I
very
said,
much like a
Log
pub
cabin.
scaled up.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, I got the world's worst. Okay, so I've had this discussion now about my
No.
old fashioned that everyone deems is
uh,
not an old fashioned.
No.
Apparently,
Mm-mm.
that's how they
no.
used to make old fashions in the 80s. It is an 80s
No.
old fashioned.
There was nothing 80s about the loon, so why did they make it that
I
way?
don't know. Yeah, it was a
Maybe they
full
had the
orange
oldest
wedge, which
bartender
is
making
what
it.
made me gag. That I was like, "There's like pulp in my straw." Like, first off,
Well,
I'm drinking an
they
old fashioned with a straw. When does that happen? But also, I was like,
Yeah,
there should not be a texture to my drink right now. This is not
yeah, and it
mimosa
should
that I
not be.
expect
A,
this.
no.
yeah, and it
It
should
should
not
be a
be a
hint.
drink that is a full glass of ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then shout out to Estrella though, who's like, "You don't like your drink," and I was like, "I don't like my drink," and like I was just gonna sit there and deal with it because that's what I do. And Australia was like, "Do you like the cider?" And I was like, "I like the cider." And she's like, "Great." And went up to the bar and was basically like, "My friend's not drinking this. It's not what she ordered. Give me a cider." And I was like,
Mhm.
"You're the best. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you."
I did have they had a peanut butter and jelly slam, and that was actually pretty good.
Mm,
But that was made with peanut butter screwball whiskey.
yep. Which you
And then
love.
Yeah.
yeah, which I love. And I made Hydro get it too because she also loves it. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
Yep. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I don't remember much from the Lulu.
You tried to take a shot with Czech and it did not
I
work.
do remember
Yeah, it
that.
did
I
not go well.
have that
Mm-mm.
memory. Because, and again, I have talked to a Minnesota local that I was like, they didn't give me in a shot glass. And you watch how I do. Like, I can't chug things. So when it is more than like a gulp, I have to do it in two, which is a problem. But then the shot glass, it was not a shot glass.
No,
It
it
would
was
have
like a
been,
Yeah, it was essentially a lowball glass.
yeah,
yeah, it's the
exactly.
equivalent of handing it to me in this like wine glass. And you
And
can
it looked
see
like it
that
was more than a shot.
it was three, I swear to God, it was 3 ounces. And like Czech just did it. Like it was
He was
Czech and I had a
fine.
great heart to heart because that's what we were doing that night. We were having heart to hearts. So I was
Everybody
like,
was.
let's have a shot together. He downs it because he's a decade younger than me. And
And he's
I
pretty much a Minnesota local at this point. So
and I just look at the glass and go, what the fuck? Because in my head I was like, how am I about to do this without spraying it across my face? Like, and so there is a hilarious video. We'll see how I'm feeling tomorrow, whether or not I include it, of me looking at it, drinking it, Czech finishing his, me looking at Czech as a like, what the fuck? And then going back to drink it again. That I was like, oh, okay. And that was
And
the
then
end of
I
my
ended
night.
up finishing that drink.
Did you? Okay, because I was
mhm.
like,
You
and
did
then I
not
put it
finish
down.
it.
I know I didn't put it down. I was just like, and it's gone now because I don't want any more. So you finished it. Okay, I thought I had
I
just
did.
like returned it. It's like nobody needs this anymore.
A little
Yeah.
return to sender.
Yeah. I was like,
Some people went down to the
salute.
saloon
Confusing.
Mhm.
because that's not wildly confusing. Um,
But they were having
and there
was
was
it
I think there was
drag?
a drag show.
I think
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah,
Which is
Correct.
what
and dancing.
HOV had been wanting to do Sunday morning was a Sunday
They
drag
wanted to do
brunch,
drag
but
brunch.
then that didn't happen. And so then they found this and it
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they said it was great there and the vibes were immaculate. It's just that it had a cover plus a bag fee
yeah,
Yeah.
is
And
why
I
we
think,
didn't go
like
down.
me personally, at that point in the night, I mean, I was so gone that I was like, I just need somewhere to hang out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't,
hmm
but I'm glad that people have found that. There was like a move for karaoke that nobody ever found, which I was surprised by.
Yeah.
But these things happen. Yep. But yeah,
yeah.
and then at some point in the night, I just turned to Salem and I was like, I'm done. Are you coming
Yeah.
home with me? And you're like, yeah, okay. And then Crescent goes, and take us straight up. And I was like, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the good boyfriend he is that I went, okay, we'll go to our hotel and then we'll drop off Estrella. And Crescent's like, nope, you're reversing that and you're dropping her off first. And I went,
Yep.
yeah, that's smart.
That makes
Like,
sense.
yeah,
Like that's yeah.
yeah.
Just seems like the best idea.
Which how much longer were you guys there then?
Like an hour at most.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Because like Tower and Charon had like just kind of gotten back from 21 Pilots.
Right.
Um, we had a couple more drinks and then headed back. There was not much else going on down there. That bar was still that club, the last call or whatever, still going insane. Like the
Yeah.
strobe light was
Well, that's as we drove past it, we were
wild.
like, I was like, thank God I didn't choose there.
Yep. I feel like as soon as you walked up, you would have been like, "Nope, audible. We're going to the loon."
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that was Saturday.
Nice. Yeah.
Sunday was
Well,
pretty
no,
uneventful. A lot of people were.
you missed that I got back to my hotel room and I
Oh.
ate an entire bag of Harvest Snaps as like Salem and I gossiped. It's just like you're going hard on those Harvest.
For
No,
like
it was
the
the
next
next
two
morning.
hours.
It was the next morning I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I like finished that bag. And she Salem's like, yeah, you did. Fucking
Yep.
loved those Harvest. I needed drunk food, and that was what was
You
in our
did.
hotel room.
Mhm.
You
And we
like
could have had more
loaded up.
cheese, but then I forgot that there
Yeah.
was the cheese.
Yeah. You
Could have
loaded
had
up
We
on like the carbs and then liquid IV because
Oh my
Hydro
God.
brought a
Mhm.
whole bag of liquid IV and nobody took it, so we took it. And it was just in our hotel room.
So
I had one
I just,
pocket
oh my
dog.
God, I survived. Thank you, Hydro, literally for hydrating me. That like I became obsessed. And even
Yep.
on the Sunday morning and the
Hmm.
drive back to Indiana, I just sat there drinking liquid IV the entire time. Yeah.
Yep. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
we ordered Papa John's to our Airbnb after getting back from the loon and watched Legend of Vox Machina. It
Oh,
Nice.
okay.
Nice.
was good stuff.
Yep.
And
Um,
then the next
yeah,
morning, Skipper
We
and I,
fucking diner brunch.
yeah, well,
Well, yeah,
we
walked
trudged,
to our
we
Airbnb.
trudged, we trekked out,
You're
and
like,
then I don't even know how long, and I'm pretty sure there was actually a short way, but
Oh, 100%.
were you using Waze?
No, I was using Google Maps at that point. Waze would have cut us a shorter way.
I know.
I
Because
was
like
using
we
Google Maps
went
at that
around,
point.
like
The
I,
convention
because
center was like in the
we
middle.
did. It was, but we could have, like, if we had turned around and gone straight the other way, it would have taken us straight there. But we went around the convention center, past that church, crossed over the freeway, and then walked some more. Like,
dear
Yeah.
God,
I don't even know how long it took us to get over there, but it was a while with our
it was a hot
luggage.
minute.
There was a
Like
lot
we,
of walking that day. We'll get into the more walking
yeah.
that I stupidly did later. But yeah, we went to Crescent's and then
Hmm.
went to, you guys just found some weird diner that was near you.
Yeah, Bandbox Diner.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It was just like listed in our Airbnb. They had
Yeah, you had like a little
like a
place.
concierge book.
Cute.
Um, and yeah, we went and there was Bottles and Puppeteer were the only people that said anything that
I
they
was
were
going to say,
coming with
okay.
us. There
So we show
there
up.
was
We got
Force
this.
Canadians,
Yep. And then the two of us.
Skipper and Salem. Dram we
Hmm.
knew was coming,
Yep.
and then
And then,
Bottles and Puppeteer. And
okay.
then Dichotomy was there when we showed up.
Yep.
Yep.
So we went in, we got a table for the seven of us, eight of us that we
Yeah.
were expecting.
We were
And
like,
Yeah.
this is it.
And this
uh,
is to set the scene. This is a teeny tiny little diner. Like it
It's
there
had
was
what,
like
tiny.
25
six?
chairs in the
Yeah, it had
whole
like
place.
6 tables, and that was it. And it was just this. There was a kitchen, and then the dining area wrapped around the kitchen,
Yep. And then, so we're waiting for
One
Bottles and
one
Puppeteer and
washroom.
Dram,
and one waitress.
one waitress.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, Savvy and Pixie Prick show up. I think they were the
Hmm.
first
Hmm.
to arrive.
Yep.
And then Jest and, how do you pronounce her
Saccharin.
name?
Saccharin.
Saccharin. show up, and then Bottles and
And
Puppeteer,
then Bottles and Puppeteer finally show up.
Mhm.
and then Dram.
And then Dram.
And then Dram, yeah.
Yeah.
So there ended
We
up
just
being like 15 of us
They kept
in
adding
this
tables,
tiny, tiny little diner.
and I
And they were
felt
so good about it
they were
too.
so
And I-
good about it. We were
I
like,
felt
I am
so
so
bad.
sorry. And like we kept trying to move more into the corner. Like Tower and I were in like the very corner. We're like, just
Mhm.
shuffle
Yep.
this way, it'll
Yeah, we were
work. And they're like,
essentially just like squished against the walls.
it's fine. We've got it. And we're like, thank you. So they were incredible for that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everybody tipped them very
Oh,
generously.
Very well.
yeah.
We were
I'm pretty sure my tip was as much as my meal.
yeah. Yeah, we're very thankful for that. And then
I
so
also
Dram and
taught
I
I also taught Skipper how to tip,
Oh
how
yes.
to do the math for tip.
Okay,
Oh,
you say that, but Jabs has the same rule of like you move the decimal point
Yeah.
times two, and every time I'm like, what is it? Someone just fucking do this for me. Gambit, whenever I hang out with him, he's like, yeah, you just move the decimal point times two. I'm like, what? Do you
Well,
guys
now you
not
know.
just- No, I know, but I'm never gonna.
you guys are like the teachers that said, "Oh, you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket." Bullshit.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
and
I'll just use my calculator.
or hand me the machine and I hit the 20% button. Ooh, look at that.
That
Yep.
too.
Look at
Yeah.
It's
that.
magic. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
magic.
God,
But
get with the 21st century, America.
come on. But yeah, Dram and I, okay, that was the hilarious moment. So Dram's there. We're like, we're going to take off after this. Dram walks, and I didn't pick up on it either,
Oh, that's right.
all the way back
that.
to Crescent's Airbnb, because that's where my luggage is. In which she goes, oh, hold on. The car is back at the diner. And we have to take now my luggage back to the diner. And anyway, we then, Dram and I drove. We did not have an eventful drive. So, what were you guys doing while we were driving?
So after you guys left, um, we went back to the Airbnb. No, we went straight from there to Dinkytown. We went and I got my Laurel
Mhm.
tattoo.
Nice. Oh, I haven't
Estrella
even
got
seen it.
a.
I have it. Hold it back up. Oh, that's great.
So it wasn't gonna fit in
Yeah,
here like I wanted it to, but I think this is just as good, maybe
it's just
better.
as good. Yeah,
Um, and Estrella got a little fox
I saw
Mhm.
that.
Our little
because
Sophocles.
I love jelly beans and she calls me Sophocles all the time.
Cute.
See, I learned that
Yeah.
about Crescent. Like I was sitting there with Estrella going through the flash, and she found the fox, and she's like, it's Sophocles, and then it also looks like their dog, and then she's like, and then she started telling me how Crescent would go through like Costco-sized bags of jelly beans,
I didn't know
Yep.
this
and,
about Crescent.
and he
There's
takes a cup
it's yeah.
full
I
of
just
jelly beans.
I just measure out a portion of jelly beans into a cup. They're Jelly Belly jelly beans
So they're
sold
expensive.
at Costco. No, they're sold at Costco.
Yeah.
I think it's like $15 for like
2 pounds.
a more than 1 kilogram bag.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, so I'll just measure out a portion of jelly beans and I'll just sit and I eat them because what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
I
But
learned
yeah,
that.
so yeah we each got tattoos super fast. John at Dinkytown Tattoos was great. He showed me his very eclectic music. Um, he said people have described it as Nintendoom. He takes old horror movies and like video synthesizes them.
Interesting.
It is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Huh.
Then he
Um,
puts crazy artwork on it.
yep, yeah, it's uh, it's a lot. He said his goal is to have everyone in an audience pass out from a seizure. Um, at one of his shows. I'm like,
Wow. Okay.
that is a goal. Um, this dude, he was great. Super nice guy. He might be watching this, so if you are, shout out John at Prismatic
Ah!
Static on Instagram. He does
I'll put the
pet
link.
portraits.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Link. Yep.
pet portraits as well as doing tattoos, and they're awesome. He does like kind of traditional style with what was it, oils?
Oil
I think
pastels,
oil pastels. Okay,
and then
yeah.
some paint.
Uh,
Yeah,
we'll put one or two of his images up,
yeah,
or at least a link to his
something.
profile. And yeah, no, he was great. Someone, I don't know who it was, had been chatting with him about Red Rising while getting tattooed there during the weekend. And so I told him like, hey, Red Rising's free on Audible right
Hmm.
now. And
Yep.
so he was like, oh well, I'm on it.
Hmm.
And then I told him about graphic audio and then our podcast.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was great. And then uh did you both go for cookies or was that just Estrella went up and got cookies? Or no,
that
that
was
was
a
Tower and
straight.
Charon.
That was Tower and Kiron, and then Estrella and I stayed and chatted. Yeah,
Yep.
they went and got cookies,
Um
and then we went back to your Airbnb for a minute.
yeah, dropped off Tower and Charon. Well, I guess
Hmm. They went
they
by
took
themselves.
they took an Uber back.
They went back because they were gonna take a nap, and then the
Yep.
nap didn't happen.
Ah.
Nope.
I don't know what happened in
Um
between, but
but yeah, so then we went back to the Airbnb for like minutes.
yeah,
And then from there, we walked to US Bank Stadium, the home stadium for the Minnesota Vikings, who I am and have been a fan for a long time,
Mhm.
unfortunately. I love them, but Minnesota Viking fans will know what I mean.
Wow.
yeah.
So much pain. Um, and so we saw the ship where kind of the like the ring of fans or like the donators
Put bricks out.
all like there's like
Yep.
yeah there's basically a big prow of a
Walkway.
Viking ship and then in the shape of a ship all of the people that donated to help build the
Cool.
stadium.
It was like
um
the size of an actual like Viking
yeah
ship.
it was
It's
it was
huge.
easily 100 feet long.
Yeah.
um
Cool.
And
and
the
then like
stadium is also shaped
absolutely
like a
nothing
yeah.
in comparison to the size of the stadium.
It was
um
huge.
Yeah, I will. I'll get Skipper to put a picture of Estrella standing by the stadium.
Hmm.
It is massive.
Yeah,
That is the first NFL stadium I've ever been to, and it's one of the bigger ones. It's
it
not. It's
is.
I don't think it's the biggest, but
It's definitely
and
bigger
then
than ours.
Seattle's. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like all NFL
Um,
are crazy. Like, so for us, I mean, okay, I'm gonna put it into Taylor Swift. You have to
Oh
remember that
no.
Taylor Swift is putting all these American stadiums that can hold like 60
Thousands.
plus like
Yeah.
yeah. U.S. Bank is 73K.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then in Canada, the two largest stadiums, the reason she has to play Toronto for 6 nights is because Toronto can only hold 40,000. And that's if you are seated on the field. Like they will take over. I think it's only 35,000 for Toronto, and then Vancouver is 40,000 because we do not have stadiums like that in Canada. We just don't
Yeah,
have
and
that. Like the CFL doesn't even like have
yeah, like
anything close to
um,
that.
yeah, the Rough Riders new stadium, Saskatchewan's CFL team. For anybody who's
I'm
thinking I'm
yeah.
pulling that out of my ass, um,
I was recently talking about
the
how the Rough Riders played in Regina.
yeah, um, that's real.
That's
Hmm.
real. And okay,
That's real. That's
I'm
real
not gonna get
Saskatchewan.
into the
That's a
Um,
logistics that
but
different.
even that,
three
I'm pretty sure
different
that
Canadian
stadium is
CFL teams
nowhere
are
near.
legally, yeah.
Nowhere near as
Three
Um,
nice.
different CFL
yeah,
teams are
not
legally
even
called the
close.
Rough Riders. But yeah, theirs is I mean the Toronto Argonauts, it's less than 30,000. And that would be the
Yeah,
biggest it's the biggest city for CFL. It's not necessarily the biggest fan base, but
it's
Toronto would
not.
have the
The Riders
biggest.
are.
I believe the Riders are. Toronto, everyone's like,
Uh,
oh, what the fuck? The
Actually,
Argonauts.
our stadium is expandable to 40K,
Hmm.
but it's a fully open air stadium.
Oh,
Oh,
so Taylor's not doing
okay.
that in
Nah,
November, December.
no.
Probably not. No, that seems like it would be a bad idea.
What's the Lions? Because I think
Um,
that's where she's playing is the BC Lions.
oh, I don't know.
Is hold on, I might have to put the word capacity. 54,000 for the
Oh,
BC Lions.
Okay.
So that's where she's playing for Vancouver, which I knew was bigger than Toronto's.
Um, so yeah, after we go to this ship and take a bunch of photos, that's where the one of
yeah.
Salem sitting on my
Yeah.
shoulders is from.
Super.
Yep.
We went to the merch store that's in the building. Uh, Fully thought it wasn't open, and we figured we'd try anyway. And went in, had the absolute best time.
Oh yeah.
The two employees that were working there were just incredible.
Yep.
Preston and Wendy, like on the off chance you guys ever see this, thank you so much. That was
We
the
told
best experience I've ever had at a place ever. Um,
we Wendy is apparently also a bookworm, and so we told her about Red Rising and told her that it was free on Audible at the time. So hopefully she
yep.
did pick that up. But
But Preston so graciously
yeah.
took my phone. Like, there's nothing was open in the stadium except for if you were on the tour, and we had missed all of the tours. And so he took my phone and took a video up in the like fan experience zone. It was like a 4 minute long video. He narrated every single thing that was
Oh
in
my
there.
god.
And then I was like, I know it's a long shot, but like, is there a way you could just like run out across the concourse and take a picture of the stadium? And he's like, yeah, no problem. This dude's gone for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. I've just trusted him at this point. It's great. And he had run all the way down, took photos on the field, took a video coming out the tunnel, took photos of like the Gallarhorn, like the drum, like everything, every part of the stadium. I was just like, man, what an unbelievable guy.
That's amazing.
And we walked in, and I was like, man, this place is crazy. And he's like, yeah, well, yeah, like I kind of am used to it. Like, I'm here every day. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm here from Saskatchewan. And he goes, oh, home of the Broncos. And my dumb ass is just like, no, we don't have an NFL team. And he goes, no, the Broncos. And I'm like, oh God, I'm a moron. Because Humboldt.
Yeah,
For anybody that
I
doesn't
know.
know, a minor league hockey team in Saskatchewan was on their way to a playoff game, I believe it was,
Yeah,
and their team bus was hit by a semi.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know exactly in what direction, but the semi ended up coming out from a stop sign, and there was
yeah. The semi
it
ran
was
a
it
stop
was a bad
sign.
day in Saskatchewan.
Mhm.
Oh, it was a
Um,
bad day across the country. Like
well,
that
yes,
was
absolutely.
um
Um,
they are in the Hockey Hall of Fame now. If you go in Toronto,
mhm.
the Humboldt Broncos have an entire thing because yeah, so the semi ran a stop sign, hit the side of this bus that had so they're teenagers that died. They're all under the
Yep,
age of
they
18.
were 16 to 18.
Yeah. And I was actually in Chicago with Jabs when it happened and trying to explain it to an American that the entire country was immediately grieving was so
Yeah,
difficult. And then when came home from her place, drove probably because I drive everywhere. But I remember coming into my subdivision, and it was a huge thing that you leave your hockey stick out for the
Yeah,
Humboldt Broncos so that wherever they are in heaven, they can play the game. So every single door had a hockey stick out, and that's in
yeah,
Ontario, where like we didn't know this team, but it was huge, and now they're in the Hockey Hall of Fame of this whole thing of like,
yeah.
yeah, we send our kids off to play this game, and that tragedy could happen. But so that's
Hmm.
incredible that Minnesota knew as well. But I mean,
Yeah.
they're so far north that them being hockey fans as well, I
Hmm.
can
Well, yeah, the
understand.
huge hockey fans, and he said he had played hockey, and so he kind of knew all about it.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, like, all these foundations have been set up, and um,
Yeah.
both by the survivors and memorial foundations. Uh, one of the one of the survivors, I believe, was um, has lower body paralysis, and it went to the Paralympics this year for, I believe, rowing.
But
So
yeah.
anyway, yeah, that
Anyway,
was
now that we're sad
such
and
an in- such
depressed.
an yeah such an incredible experience at the end of the
I
trip.
I think we were
'Cause
in
I
there for
was
like an hour and a half just talking to
yeah,
them. Wendy
yep.
was
We
giving us
were
all
we
the
were in
tea.
there. Oh, Diana, you suck. You suck.
Yeah.
You ever see this? I know
Fuck
what
you,
I know who you
Diana.
are.
Thumbs
I
down.
actually I met Diana in
Mhm,
Mall of America, and I did not know this
mhm.
was pre T.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I went to the Viking store in Mall of America because I did not expect to be going to the Viking store in US
In
Bank Stadium. It was funny, the shirt that I or the sweater that I had, sorry, the bunny hug that I had bought in the Mall of America. I wore it to the stadium, and I walk in, and this Wendy, she goes, "Where'd you get that sweater?" I'm like for a brief second, I thought she was like accusing me of something, and I was like, "The Mall of America?" And she's like, "Oh, I bet you those are what's in those boxes downstairs that we can't get access to. I want it." It's like,
Yep.
it is a very cozy sweater.
Nice. Nice. Um, but then
Yeah.
yeah, so after that, just fly
Yeah.
out. What did you?
Sent
Yeah.
we just sent Salem on the way on her
I
set on
ordered
her two lifts.
I accidentally ordered that was 2 minutes
Oh.
um rather than a distance, and I have no idea how I did that. I literally, like, before we went into the the shop, I was looking on Uber and I was like, okay, well, like, how far away is it from the airport? How much is it going to cost me? And it, like, was $15 on there at first. And I was like, okay, not a big deal. I go back in there and it's like, oh, okay, like, you want to go to the airport. And I think it thought that I was just trying to go around the block. And it was like $4. And I was like, what the hell? Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I'll pick
take
it.
it.
And so, and then the guy arrives and he's like, do you really just want a 2 minute ride? And I was like, no, I'm trying to go to the airport. I need to fly out. He's like, okay. And then he's like trying to walk me through it. And then he cancels it and then I rebook it. And I'm like, sorry, dude, it's not with you. And he's like, well, it was nice talking to you. And he closes, he drives off. I was like, okay. And then
Wow.
this other,
Okay.
yeah. And, but then there was, I got another Uber that was down the street. And then he was the nicest dude. Like,
Mm.
we had a great conversation the whole entire time. And he was like super upbeat and he was laughing the whole time. And then he dropped me off at the airport and I met up with Pop Top and we just sat and talked for like 2 hours and
Nice.
kind of went over everything and had a lot of good conversation. And then I tried not to cry as I walked to my terminal at the airport.
Aw.
And then did have a boarding pass that time and a seat.
Good. Good.
That is good.
So then I got home.
And they got home.
Hmm.
I at that point would have been getting into Indiana. We got in late at night. And then I left the next morning to drive back all the way home, and then Crescent, you left the next morning to fly home.
We actually went to Malcolm Yards again
Oh
Sunday
yeah,
night. Yeah, me, Tower, Caron, Estrella had really wanted to go and get the brisket sandwich that she had had on Friday night that I had brought home for her.
mm,
Uh, Warm
yeah.
because it was really good cold,
Mhm.
but it was even better warm. And then we had ice cream, but Yee Claw and Rawhide were there with us the whole time. And just as we were leaving, Sacker and Clover, um, oh, who else showed up? Several people that had been watching Great British Bake Off.
Oh,
Um, about half of them showed up. And then as we were leaving, Hydra was like, "Can you wait 5 minutes?" I'm like,
Saw that.
"No, we already left. Sorry." So
oh,
now I have to go visit.
yeah.
Oh, darn. I got to get out of winter.
Oh no. Yeah,
Sounds awful.
yeah. And then you flew it the next morning.
But
Right?
yep. And I managed to find 2 travel exclusive bottles of Talisker at the duty free.
Ooh.
Talisker Dark Storm and Talisker Surge.
There you
Dark
go.
Storm, Caron had talked about for years. It's his white whale scotch.
Yeah,
And because it's travel exclusive, you can't get it anywhere other than duty frees. So
that's cool.
did that, yeah.
Nice.
Super good.
Yeah. The next morning, I think I slept until like 10 or 11, maybe 10. Dram was not awake, and I had to like awkwardly text her of like, "This is great. Thanks so much. I'm leaving your
Mhm.
house. Goodbye," and drive home. Yeah, and then have to deal with the Detroit crossing, which is always
Ooh,
an adventure. Oh yeah. Fucking love people who try. I do not at this moment have Nexus. Hopefully soon. I have my application in.
Did you not get Nexus?
Because
Skipper every time.
I only remember to apply for Nexus while I'm standing at the border going, what the fuck? Why don't I have Nexus? And the Nexus line in Detroit, so in Niagara Falls, they're very clear from the beginning where the fucking Nexus line is. And there is like, you don't get into that line unless you have Nexus. In Detroit, there's a bunch ghost dogs. They're no longer ghost dogs, they're real dogs now.
they are real dogs. Mhm.
You get him. Oh, both
Meow.
of them. But Detroit,
You can just see
people
a
are
butt.
going up. Hi, Aspen. Hi.
But
In Bentley. I see Bentley. I see Bentley's butt.
Buttly.
Uh, but yeah, at Detroit, they go all the way up the fucking Nexus line until they can go as far as they can, and they go, "Oh, I don't have a Nexus," and I happen to be in the line directly next to the Nexus line. Don't get in that line because everyone's then cutting in front. And I was like, "You assholes." You fucking assholes. Because they have to move you over so that Nexus keeps moving. I
Yep.
hate you all. I hate you all. But yeah, but my drive was uneventful all the way home. Got in at
Yep.
night and then
Our
worked 5 a.m. the next morning. So that was
ooh,
classic. I
so
took
great.
the following day off.
I did too.
Murder.
But my travels did not end with getting home.
No.
I had to. So we flew in. I forgot that mid October is like prime hunting tourism season in
Oh,
Saskatchewan. So the entire plane from Minnesota was full of people coming to Saskatchewan to hunt.
Oh.
interesting.
And we ended up being like almost the last ones off the plane. Estrella had gotten upgraded to business class, which
I
was
heard that.
fantastic for her because she knew one of the flight attendants and they
Ah.
had a business class that was empty. So that was awesome for her. But Caron was seated like right at the back of the plane. So we waited for everybody to get off the plane and then headed down to customs where we had to wait behind all of these hunters. So we sat in customs for an hour. And
Get your
then,
Nexus. Everybody get their Nexus
yeah,
mods, guys.
honestly, I was standing in the customs line. I was like, I'm gonna sign up for Nexus.
That's when
Just
you
like
think to
it
do
was.
it until you get home
Yep.
and then you forget that you're going to sign up for
Yeah.
Nexus because you're not allowed to do it in line. You can't have your fucking phones out. Yeah.
Oh, really? They had no problem with that for us.
Oh, true. No, they're
Um,
hardcore about don't have your phones out while you're in the customs line.
that's weird. Um, but yeah, so I got home like 3 p.m. Uh, visited with my parents briefly because Thanksgiving, and then my sister had come up, and her husband was supposed to drive our car back, and he was sick, so he did not. So I drove her car back down to Regina, and then I picked up my car and I drove it back to Saskatoon, and I got home at 10:30,
Mm,
I think.
That's not
But
bad.
then I had the following day off. Uh,
yeah.
so worse
Nice.
worse things have happened. But yeah,
There you go. All right. Well, that's it. That's the weekend.
yeah, that's it. It's all. This is a fucking long weekend.
It was.
It was
Long episode. This is the
Happened.
longest episode we've had in
a
a
long
hot minute.
time.
That's I
Yeah.
had this like, oh, we're gonna talk about what books we're reading. We don't even need to. We're almost at two
Yeah.
hours.
No.
No, we can play by play an entire long weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, I hope
If
you
you're
had a
still with us at
drink.
the end, um,
Thank you.
cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking
Well,
with us. We
okay, so
hope you
I'm
come to the
gonna
next one if you didn't come to this one.
yes,
And
so
even if
that's
you
what's
did
gonna
come
be
to
my
this one,
next question.
hope you'll we hope you'll come to the next one.
Come to
Yeah.
the next one. That was gonna be my next question. Is people are already talking about the next one, and I feel like we should discuss so that
Hmm.
people have answers without fully having answers because we don't really
Yeah.
have answers. So
No. And
We
it's one
have
of
concepts of
those.
a plan.
we have
Yeah. So, and it's one of those too because we don't know when Red God's coming out.
exactly.
So
Yep.
we don't like. That's my biggest fear is that we go and we plan this whole event, and then all of a sudden, by Murphy's law, Red God's gonna come out, and HellerCon's gonna happen the exact same weekend
Yep.
for some reason. Because let's say we pick something in the summer again. Um, but I think it's one of those we planned Laureltide. Like we started planning 6 months out, but then we really got into the nitty gritty like 2.5 months prior.
Yeah.
So we can definitely plan something pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I think we have discussed maybe making this a yearly thing and then bouncing around to different places because a lot of people don't have the ability to fly or have the funds to fly in longer distance. So that is the plan that we've discussed, at least as Pegasus Legion and some other people.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yep.
I think just to add on that, yeah, I think bouncing around is a huge idea. I know both Rowdy Legion and I forget California's
Golden.
Legion.
Golden.
I
Yep.
those are probably the two that right now. And again,
Yep.
it could change if it's a year or 2 years, but those are the two that are bouncing around right now because they've got in the same way Minnesota had that core group. Those
Yeah.
two have a group of locals that we can have a jest with us that like
Hmm.
can show us around. They know the ins and outs of everything.
Hmm.
So that's those are the strong contingencies, but we don't know. Who knows if Storm Legion stop having storms and maybe I'll consider you.
Yeah.
Uh, but who else knows what other legion pops up that we do it with?
Apollo
Uh,
Legion.
Oh,
Apollo Legion, we keep
Sasquatch.
saying the
We all
Sasquatch
converge on the
heroes.
center of the country.
Hmm.
Yes, the us Canadians all want. We could do Saskatchewan. However, most Americans do not have passports, and therefore, I think
This
Apollo.
is your X amount of time
Yeah.
warning. Get your
We're
damn
getting our
passports.
Nexus. You get your passports, and then
It
we
Yeah,
takes a.
it's
go.
not that hard.
It could
Ask
take at
Checkmate.
least. Yeah.
Checkmate got his in like 3 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Minimum
Unreal.
is like 3 weeks. Most is 6 months. Depends on where you're at and who you file through.
get your passports just in case we
Yeah.
do it in Saskatchewan. Sasquatch Legion in the Pacific Northwest. That is a good call out. You guys have a good. You
Yeah.
guys do meetups. Ohio does meetups as well. So we don't know at the moment, but we're looking for another town that has that core contingency. So
And I
bear
know
with
Rowdy
us.
Legion has already requested. They have thoughts and ideas, and they've done
Yes.
some big meetups, so they're a good contender. SoCal is also.
Yep. San Diego
Um,
is the
mhm.
city
Yeah.
bopping
Yeah.
around.
So if you have any suggestions, let us know in the den. Message us. Comment on the video,
Yeah.
Instagram,
Yep.
whatever. If you have
Let us
any
know.
thoughts, then we can look into it and at least kind of get our gears moving on what we want to do next.
Yeah.
And that way we
It's
can connect with all the people.
yeah. So it'll be good. But
Yeah.
it was
We can't wait
fantastic.
for the next one,
Yes.
Hmm.
wherever it
Thank
is.
you. Wherever it is. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you everybody who helped in any element of this, whether or not you are as big as an organizer or just happen to have an idea, give us a rental car, whatever it was. Thank you everyone
Shit.
for
Anybody
showing
who
up.
brought a vibe, like
Yes.
Yeah.
everybody who came contributed to what Laureltide was,
Yes.
Yep.
and it was incredible. And thank you all so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well spoken. So yeah, that's it. That's all I've got. And then on that note, we don't know what November holds. We are clearly doing at least once a month episodes. There's a couple of ideas that have been mentioned in our Patreon. Join our Patreon so you can get in on that. My Sims episodes are weekly, and we are now doing at least weekly, if not bi-weekly, Twitch channel stream. So every Monday I will be there, and Crescent will
Sometimes Crescent will
possibly.
be there.
Sometimes Crescent will be
Um,
there. Sometimes he'll be
I
there on a
am,
Thursday.
yeah, I am pondering doing Thursdays. We will see what my schedule ends up looking like.
Yeah, but for the
Turns out,
foreseeable,
children make planning difficult.
yes.
And
But
Hmm.
for the foreseeable future, every Monday you will find us on Twitch doing something. This Monday was just me talking because both Sims and uh, Assassin's Creed failed me, but I promise to have better setup next week. Yeah, during the Howler's Den. If you're somehow listening to this and not in the den, I don't know how, but like that is how some people
congratulations,
join the
first of
den.
all.
Come
There is
find
Actually,
us.
a like
I
group of
think I
people
think
who
Bottles and Puppeteer were
yeah.
Hmm.
here and then the den.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a few people. So join the
So
Good
den.
for
come
you
hang
guys.
out.
Yeah,
The den gives all the updates on everything that's happening. You get to hear it
Yeah.
and
first.
it's all fun.
And it's so fun. It's overwhelming, just forewarning. But you can find your little nooks and crannies that you want to hang out in. So discord.gg/the Howlers Den.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
All right. Good night.